It just feels very sad. It feels very sad, Limits. That's the whole point, is it never gets brought up. Nobody talks about it anymore. And you don't know what it was like. Even when we went back on the air in, 2010, it was big. It had, as it turned out, it had already been at its biggest, really. Although, again, they were a 1 seed after that when you had the Nasir Robinson meltdown. So it was still pretty darn big. It was. But as you look back, the legends of that time were Brandon Knight and Julius Page and DeJuan Blair and Sam Young and a few others mixed in there. Chevy Troutman for sure. And it just feels sad. It feels like a time that could never be again because of how college basketball has changed. It could never be again like it was. But it's not like looking back, at the 1960 Pirates. It was only, 15 years ago? What's 26 minus 9? 17. 17 years ago that UConn game happened. And we thought we were going to live like that forever, Limits. And like everything else, it just passed. I guess the miracle was that Pitt had a program like that. Maybe that's the miracle. 412-928-9370. I'll tell you, my all-time team is maybe a better way to put it. I used to pick these with Mulsey, and we'd have a wonderful time. DeJuan Blair would be my center. Sam Young and Chevy Troutman would be my forwards, and then it gets hard. But it's got to be Brandon, even though I loved Carl Krauser and Levance Fields. I really did. I mean, they had a string of point guards there that were unbelievable. And then could go a lot of ways with my shooting guard, but I'm going with my guy from Buffalo, Julius Page. Of course I am. That guy battled Ben Gordon in Big East tournaments. He battled future NBA players, and he was a great defensive player, Julius Page. And people don't know what he played through in his final year at Pitt with that ankle injury that still affects him to this day. Just talked to him the other day. He's getting ready to run a marathon, Julius Page. Says he still feels it in that ankle. And some of his numbers were depressed in that final year because he got injured. What a great player. So that's my all-time Pitt team, Limits. Not my all-time, my 21st century Pitt team. DeJuan Blair at center, obviously. Sam Young at 6'6", fourth leading scorer in Pitt history. I think the most dynamic scorer pretty easily of this era. Chevy Troutman at power forward. Never forget the 25 points in the second half in a snowstorm at UConn. Brandon Knight, who's, the Pitt version of Joe Green, the guy who changed the culture of an organization. He did. And then Julius Page with Jerron Brown, the glue guy, coming off the bench. Although it could be, what's the Penguin guy's last name? Elmer?
Soderblom.
He's legitimately the glue guy.
Yes.
Jerron Brown used to be a man. It was so fun, Limits, to be over there. I don't know how else to describe it. It was just a joy.
Well, I feel like the only taste that Pitt fans have been able to have of that was the run to the tournament a couple of years ago when Nellie Cummings was here and Jamarius Burton.
That was fun. That was a fun team, yeah.
I was a junior in college covering that team for Pittsburgh Sports Now and going to the ACC tournament, traveling to the NCAA tournament with George Michalowski. We went and covered those games. That was probably some of the most fun that I've ever had in my young career was covering those teams. Talking to Federico and
he still plays.
Well, yeah.
He's still in college.
Where's he at? Texas Tech still?
He's on the intern Dom plan.
Now?
He's going to be 10 years in college.
Aiden Fish was on that team. It was fun talking to him. And
the Fish that saved Pittsburgh. Yeah.
The Diaz-Graham twins. Greg Elliott was a great quote. No one was a better quote than Blake Hinson, though.
He was fantastic.
Doing well in the NBA with Utah.
Yeah, I'm happy for that. That was a team with some personality. The other thing about college basketball now is you don't get a chance to know the players at all. So many of them, for various reasons, are one and done. Or at the most, two and done. That's it. Man, you got to know Sam Young was here for 4 years. He almost left, by the way. Did you know that, oh Limitless
not.
Wonder?
Where's he going to go? The NBA or transfer?
Well, you do now because he felt Jamie buried him his first 2 seasons. He was sitting behind LaVon Kendall as a sophomore. He played less as a sophomore than as a freshman. And he said, yeah, me and Jamie weren't seeing eye to eye. He was going to go to Kansas State and play for Huggins.
Wow.
And then Huggins left Kansas State.
For West Virginia?
Talk about a one and done. It was literally one and done. And then Sam said, then I figured, all right, we'll see what happens. And what happened was pure magic. Let's go to the phone lines.
You imagine if Sam Young transferred to West Virginia at that time? Oh, my word.
It would have changed everything for the worse.
Here is Jim in the car. Hi, Jim.
Hi, Jim.
How you doing?
I've never been better.
Hey, you're leaving somebody out. You're not from the area originally, and you might be a little younger than me. But my next door neighbor when I was a kid happened to be a guy named Billy Knight from Braddock, PA.
Oh no, no. This is only my 21st century team, not my all-time Pitt team. Of course, Billy Knight would be on that, and Don Hennon would be on that, and people of that ilk. Charles Smith. No, this is just since the year 2000.
And we there was a pretty exciting game against Notre Dame down at the Pitt. I can remember some pretty good ones at the Fieldhouse. Also some heartbreakers. I mean, I was at Georgetown when we beat them at Georgetown pretty good. And I was also there, unfortunately, for that Butler loss that just broke our back. I don't know if it was as bad as Scotty Reynolds, but
you think the move to the ACC? You think the move to the ACC more than anything crushed Pitt basketball?
Yeah, I do, but what would you give to have Jamie here getting you into the NCAA tournament every year and winning a game or two?
I mean, would he be getting there and winning a game or two if he had stayed at Pitt in the ACC? I'm not so sure about that.
I think so, because he turned TCU around. I mean, they were not that good when he got there.
No, they had a long history of not being good. Now, I would like to see, I would, and I don't know the answer to this, but I'd like to see the money that TCU spends compared to Pitt. I think we might be a little bit surprised by that, but that's an interesting question.
I also think the recruiting. Jamie recruits people that will play his style, and he plays his style, and he has the recruits that will play his style. And I think that was the big plus for him the whole time he was here. He went and got them New York kids, and they played ball.
Well, he did when they were in the Big East anyway. Thanks for the call.
Yeah.
Here is...
What a nice man he was, Limits. Hold on, I just wanted to say something about that.
Sure.
Is that toward the end of Jamie's tenure here, he missed a tournament. So he missed, made. So they weren't making the tournament every year by the end. And his last records in the ACC, it was 9-9, 8-10. He was 5-13 in their second last year in the Big East. It wasn't great at the end. Let's not wash that over. It wasn't great at the end. And the last year he won an NCAA tournament game was 13-14. And his last tournament game was one of the ugliest games in the history of the sport. Wisconsin 47, Pitt 43. It was 22-16 at the half. Anywho,